That would alarm me. This is what the Peruvian police released to the public. All right? That's what they released to the public. That's what Amanda saw. That's the bathroom the morning of the murder. That's it. Find me the big splashes of blood. Look in the shower. No mold, no blood. Look at the sink. That's what really was there. That's when you start saying, oh my God, this is intentional. That's the photo they released to the public of the sink. That photo was taken December 18th, 6 weeks after the original crime. If anything, they have totally messed up his room. What you see there, that pink stuff is what's called phenolphthalein, and it is a chemical that they spray on there to see if there is blood. And what you do is you spray it on, and if it turns pink within 1 minute, you found blood. If it turns pink after 5 minutes, which it's going to do, there's no blood there. So they just left it on the wall, and knowing that the jurors are not sequestered in this little town of Perugia, they released this and said, that's blood. There's the photo released by the police, and on the left is what it really looked like. You think this was a fair investigation? Now let's talk about the staged break-in that they said they caused. This is absolutely one of the most incredible lies I've ever seen in a court outside of Iran. Okay, if you see here, look carefully on the left side, and on the right side of the left side picture, you're going to see an outdoor shutter, a green shutter. Do you see that? Then in the middle, there's a glass window. On the left side is the indoor shutter. Got it? What I want you to look at is this. The glass goes all the way up, but it was broken, the bottom half was broken, and you've got a divot right there. The police said that this burglary was staged because it was obvious to them that somebody threw a rock from inside the house outside the house. If you look down at the bottom right, you see that divot? That is, you're standing outside or sitting outside, that would be inside. There is a divot right there, and you see below and to the left there, that white little dot there under the center thing? You know what that is? That's embedded glass. That's embedded glass. That is sandstone, apparently, in that divot, and that is fresh wood. If you look back a little bit here, I can get you to go back. You can see that the unpainted wood all around is actually turned a gray color, but the fresh wood is a reddish color. It's very obvious that the stone was thrown through the window, it hit the shutter, and busted the shutter open. Anybody who thinks that the glass or that the stone was thrown from inside out is either an idiot or lying. I can't tell you which. This is the room. There's that green shutter. They say that the reason they know that this was staged is because when they got there, there was clothes on top of the glass, the broken glass in the room. Well, you'd think that the glass would be on top of everything, wouldn't you? Unless a burglar came in and started throwing things on the floor after the glass was broken. If you look on the purse or the bed, you'll see a purse. You'll see the contents of the purse all over the floor, all over the bed. You will see that he went through her clothes hamper there, or clothes cabinet there, threw everything on the floor. That is why there are clothes on top of the glass. Why is that so hard? Glass fracture examinations can determine the direction and type of breaking force. So all they had to do was send the broken shards of glass, and they would have told them whether the rock was thrown inside or outside. Guess what? They didn't test that. Why do you think they didn't test that? They never did any testing which had the potential of contradicting them. If it possibly contradicted them, they didn't do the testing, or they did it and lied about the results. This is the evidence of Rudy Gaudet in the murder room. The DNA was found on the victim. His DNA was found on the victim. His DNA was found inside the victim. His DNA with the victim's blood was found on the victim's purse. His fecal matter was in the crime scene bathroom. His shoe prints in victims' blood were found all over the murder room, all over the murder house. His handprints in the victim's blood were found in the murder room in the hallway. His handprints in the victim's blood were found on the wall of the murder room. His handprints in the victim's blood were found on the pillowcase and the pillow that somebody had put under her hips to give them easier. I'm just not going to say it. This is the evidence of Amanda Knox in the murder room. You need more time to copy it down? When is a murder weapon not a murder weapon? When the Peruvian police says it is. This was the murder weapon, allegedly. If you look down on the bottom, or on the right-hand side here next to the O, you will see the outline in blood of the knife, and that's in Meredith's blood, the outline of the knife that was put down next to her purse on the sheet. Here's the problem. It's a different shape than the knife that they said is the murder weapon, and they are significantly different sizes. It can't be the same knife. The other thing was the attack was from behind, and I had some really cool graphics here, but forget them. If you will look under the right-hand side, just draw a line about an inch down below her jaw, all the way down horizontally. And then on this left side, just imagine 2 horizontal stab wounds. Okay? Here's the problem with the prosecution's theory of this. Imagine this is a knife, okay? They said that Amanda was in front of her and that she stabbed her like this. At that point, you have a vertical knife wound. Vertical, not horizontal. You can't really do it that way. The only way the horizontal knife cuts work is if you come behind somebody, hold their head, and stab and cut. Then the knife is horizontal. The first thing that let me know that there was a serious problem here was the knife wounds were horizontal, which means it came from behind. And if you looked, you would see bruises on Meredith's face right here, 4 bruises. Doesn't it look like somebody's holding her mouth closed? The cross-contamination is unbelievable. You see these men in bubble suits? This bothers me a lot. I just found this out recently. I was looking at these things and I'm thinking, well, surely they changed their boots when they went from room to room. You have to change your boots when you go from room to room. Imagine if you have to change your gloves every time you touch something. Imagine you've cut yourself, you're waiting in the doctor's office, he comes in with his gloves covered with blood and he says, okay, let's start. No, not until you change those gloves. Why? Because whatever's on those gloves are going to come to you, okay? You don't want that. So you want to change your gloves and boots every chance you get. So here's my team, by the way, part of my team on the right-hand side. That's Karachi, that's a bomb factory. That's where they built the bomb that blew up the U.S. consulate. If you see, we have booties there, you have gloves, you have spare gloves on the ground, and this was only for 1 room. And what you do is when you leave the room, you take your booties off, you get another pair of booties. They're 30 cents a pair. Okay, there they are on the left-hand side. How often did the technicians change their shoes and boot covers? Never. Well, you say, well, they probably didn't step in anything. No, they went in and out of the house. Everything that was outside of the house is now brought inside. These, I found out, are not the normal crime scene suits. These are what are called biological suits, 3B barrier suits. These are suits to protect these guys from blood contamination, not to protect the crime scene. Now, they didn't step in blood. Sure. There he is stepping in wet blood, and this same technician walked all over the house without changing those boots. These are cloth booties. Do you think he may have transferred some things from room to room? I checked, and these are made by a company. Just in case you don't believe me, I checked with Indutex, found these are close-ups, and I was able to find the exact brand, model number, everything. These are not the suits that you should be using in that crime scene. They never change their boots. They never change their gloves. Everything is cross-contaminated. This is the FBI handbook. Absorb suspected liquid blood into a clean cotton cloth or swab. Air dry the cloth and pack in clean paper in an envelope. Do not use plastic containers. This is a video clip that I watched. What they do is they get a wet piece of blood on a swab. stick it right in that plastic airtight container and close it. Which is why you're going to find out that some of the evidence now, the bra clasp, half the blood samples were all destroyed for improper packaging. The other thing you do is you never, ever, ever use the same utensil twice, because it gets contaminated when it touches the evidence. In the FBI, we had stacks, boxes of these tweezers, you know, like picnic table utensils. And we threw them away after every use. These are not stainless steel ones. They use them for every single thing they did. Here are the people poking around at the bra clasp. If you look there, there's dirt and possibly blood on one of the fingers. And they failed to collect critical evidence. The incredible journey of the bra clasp. This is the day after the murder. It's found and photographed. Here it is 6 weeks later, still on the floor in a different place. How did that happen? You tell me. Do you think in a murder where a woman's been sexually assaulted that possibly the clasp of her bra would be important? Do you think you might want to pick that up? Well, there it is 6 weeks later. I don't know how it got back there, but it got back there just after they found that the shoe prints of Rafael Solecito weren't going to help him in court. And then they went back to the crime scene and found the bra clasp. Ooh, amazing. And guess what? It had Rafael's DNA on it. How cool was that? Then if you look at the right-hand side, there it is again in a different place and next to the lighting cord that they were using. November 2nd, it's a nice clean bra clasp. You see it 6 weeks later. You think there might be some contamination there? Would you find anything of evidentiary value in that room? You have the purse, you have the bloody fingerprints on the wall, and you'd certainly want to take the purse, wouldn't you? See who touched it? Rudy's DNA ended up on that, her blood was on it. But guess what? 6 weeks later, there it is. They never picked up the purse. 6 weeks later, Meredith's bloody sweatshirt, which they had thrown all over the place, was right next to her head. The guy on the left digs it out of the dirty clothes, throws it on the ground, and then with those blood-covered plastic gloves, digs back into the dirty clothes things, effectively destroying every bit of evidence in there. They didn't take her shoes or her socks. There's the rock, November 2nd. There it is, 6 weeks later. Apparently not important. This is the pillow I talked about. This was under Meredith's hips. And guess what they found on there? Semen. And the police refused to test it. I can't tell you why. So, what's been going on here is the police heard a horse, said it was a zebra, and now they've spent the last few months trying to paint stripes on a horse. This crime scene was contaminated beyond all usefulness. They testified, they lied in public statements, and they lied on the stand. They didn't document the crime scene. They made misleading leaks to the press. They refused to do the investigation that had any potential to contradict their conclusions. They intentionally concealed exculpatory evidence. There is no physical evidence whatsoever that supports the prosecution, because you're going to see the knife and the bra clasp are going to be thrown out. This is simple, basic incompetence on a weapons-grade scale. This will be an academy class in most forensic academies, I hope. They cherry-picked evidence, and the decision on the guilt of Amanda Knox was made prior to the evidence being returned. This was the worst case I have ever seen in a Western country, and that's why I'm so bothered. Thanks.